Knowing how to invest whenever you're first getting started feels really difficult. There's a lot to understand and there's a lot to learn. So today I'm going to share with you 3 different ways that you can get started investing if this is something that you're just starting to do. What you don't want to do is get started in ways that cost you a bunch of money in fees or taxes or in bad performance. So what I'm going to do is lay out 3 different ways that have 3 different timelines. One way is best if you've got kind of a short-term timeline in mind, 1 or 2 years. The next way is a middle timeline that's between 2 and 10 years. And the last way you can invest is if you've got a long-term time horizon in mind, 10 plus years. So no matter what your goal is, what your timeline is today, you'll have the answer as far as a way that you can get started investing and get started right away so you don't miss out on future gains. If you've not seen one of my videos before, I'm not normally in this bedroom holding a cheese grater as a microphone, but I do normally talk about investing services and how you can invest depending on what stage of life you're in. For me, I've been investing for 15 years and my wife and I are on track to retire in the next 10 years because we became millionaires at 36 years old, which was last year. The first way you can get started investing is for short term, and that would be with an individual brokerage account. And if you've not heard of that kind of account before, think of it this way. It's the most kind of freeing, open-ended kind of investing account, and that's why it's so good for you if you've got kind of a short-term time horizon in mind, less than 2 years. It allows you to buy and sell as you please. There's no restrictions. There's no real tax penalties to be worried about if you want to take the money out. And that's in contrast to the next kinds of accounts we'll talk about after this. So where can you open a taxable brokerage account? Well, most different investing services offer that. That's like the baseline, the first kind of investing account that you might want to open. And so everybody from Robinhood to WeBull to Fidelity to Vanguard to like pretty much any investing brokerage will allow you to open a taxable brokerage account. And a lot of people who open this kind of account will actually buy and sell individual stocks. Personally, I don't do a whole lot of that. Percentage-wise, that's like less than 5% of our total net worth is individual stocks, because what that means is you're counting on that one stock or that one company to perform really well for you. So by all means, invest the way you want. If that's what you want to do, a taxable brokerage account and a short-term focus is really what you're after. But just know that's very, very volatile. If that company does well, you do well. If that company does poorly, you do poorly. So you're really like married to the future of that company. If you want that, by all means, a taxable brokerage account and individual stocks are where it's at for you. And also you might be wondering, well, how much money do I need to get started to do that? Really, there's no minimum limit that you need, especially with modern day online investing brokerage accounts. They'll let you get started with as little as $5. So regardless of how much money you have to get started with, you can get started. And I would pick a service that you really like, that you like using, that you're comfortable with, and that you trust. Several different brokerages out there will give you some free stocks or will give you a little bit of money if you first start up with them. And that's fine. I think that's an interesting motive to start with somebody. But if you don't like using the company, then it's not worth getting the free stocks. But I know a couple of options are really popular for beginners. One of them is Robinhood, and they'll typically give you $5 in free stocks if you start with them. I've got an affiliate link below if you want to use that. But also something as simple as Fidelity or Vanguard or Fennel can be a great option if you're getting started. If I were you, I would just peruse the different options, pick the one you like the most, and get started today. Don't wait. The next option we have is for people who are looking for a medium-term outlook on their investing. You want to be thinking about 2 to 10 years ahead for your future. This doesn't mean you can't access the money earlier. It's possible to do that, but it's just not as easy and as efficient and as simple as something like a taxable brokerage account is. So when I say medium term, 2 to 10 years, I'm thinking of somebody who wants to leave that money alone, who's probably okay leaving the money alone for at least 2 years. So you might have a more stable job than the first person, you might have more patience than the first person, and you might have something like an emergency fund set up to where you don't think you're going to actually have to touch this money for at least 2 years. So if that's you, I think a Roth IRA is a really good option, and let me explain why. Because initially, people might think, no, dude, that's for retirement. That's not a good option. I think it could be. The reason why a Roth IRA can work for you, even if you have this kind of medium to long-term outlook, is that you're able to withdraw your contributions from a Roth IRA if you need them. So let's explain that. A contribution is the money that you put into the account, and you can withdraw it if you need to because the money that you put in a Roth IRA has already been taxed. So even though an IRA is an individual retirement account, because the money that you put in there has already been taxed, the government goes, yeah, it's your money. We've gotten our money out of it. We've taken our taxes from you. Your contributions now are still yours. Maybe an emergency pops up. Maybe you have to get a new car because yours got totaled and the insurance company didn't treat you right. Maybe it's time to buy a new house and you need to take that money out that you thought was going to be more of a 10-year investment, but it turns out you had a good opportunity to buy a house. You need the money now for a down payment. Whatever the reason is, you can access the money. As far as picking what to invest in with a Roth IRA, that's really, again, up to you. You could still do something like individual stocks like you would with a taxable brokerage account if you had that short-term mentality, but by no means are you pigeonholed into that option. That's more like the common thing that people do. With a Roth IRA, you could also do something like ETF or index fund investing, where you invest in a broad range of different companies, all by picking one ETF or one index fund. And so what that does is just spread out your liability across all those companies. If a bunch of them do well and your ETF goes up, great. If a few of them do really badly, it's probably not going to hurt you. So while technically it limits the amount of money you could make, it also limits the amount of money you could lose. And then as far as how you actually access a Roth IRA, like how do you get one? How do you go from not having one to get one? We've got to find an investing brokerage, which is just an investing company that wants you to put your money with them, that actually has a Roth IRA. Not every investing company out there in the world gives you access to a Roth IRA. A lot of them do. I mean, probably most of them do. So it shouldn't be that hard to find one. But realistically, the same rules apply to the taxable brokerage person, the short-term person. Find a company that you enjoy using. Does it support your goals? Does it kind of look the way you want it to look? Do you interact with it in the way that you want to interact with it? Like if you're a desktop person, you have to have like the desktop website looking good. Try it out. See if that makes sense to you. Or if you're an app-only person, it's got to look good on your phone. Download the app, try and test it out and see what it looks like. And now finally, lastly, the third group of people, those of us who have a long time horizon in mind. We're talking about 10 years plus that this money can sit and stew and get all the flavors together of compound interest and make it grow the most over time. You have decided that this money is something you're not going to touch for 10 plus years. How do you invest if that's the kind of thing you want to do? Well, in my opinion, the best way for you to invest if that's you is through your 401k that you have through your job. Now, I realize not everyone has a 401k, not everyone has access to that. And even if you do, not everyone has what's called an employer match. But if you do have a 401k and you do have an employer match, I think that's the best possible way for you to invest. And here's why. The amazing thing about a 401k with an employer match is that you're getting essentially 100% gain on the money that your employer is matching. So imagine this, you contribute $100 a month into your 401k. Fine and dandy, good starting point. But then if your employer also matches that and they put in $100 a month, then you're making a 100% gain right off the bat. You're never going to get that in the stock market. Not like instantaneously anyway. It'll take you years and years and years to do that. Probably somewhere between 6 and 10 years. But why wait 6 to 10 years if your employer will do it for you right away? It's amazing. And then why a 401k? There's all these other kinds of investing accounts out there. You could do a taxable brokerage. You could do a Roth IRA. Well, the 401k is special because of that employer match situation, but it's also special because you don't get taxed until you take the money out. And so what that means for you functionally now, whenever you put money in the account, is that you get a tax break on it this year. So the government basically says, hey, you put in whatever it is, $5,000 this year into your 401k, we're not taxing you on that money. As far as we're concerned, you never even made that money. And that's amazing because especially if you're a high earner or if you're somebody who just wants to pay as little in taxes as possible every year, then this lowers the amount of money that you'll pay in taxes. So you save some money this year, you potentially get 100% return by your employer match, you're investing for your future. And granted, the 401k does have way more restrictions than the other two kinds of accounts we've talked about. It's really not set up to take money out before retirement age because you're going to get hit with taxes and penalties. Even if you take out a loan against your own 401k, that's far from optimal. And so this is really money that we need to think about leaving in there basically until retirement age. I mean, I know my timeline was 10 years plus, but for most of us, we're 10 years plus away from retirement. So this is that long-term money you're going to let sit and stew and cook like you would a roast or something. It doesn't help you to cook it for 30 minutes and then take it out and try and eat it. The thing's still raw. Same thing with your 401k. And the restrictions we have with the 401k are different than the other two because the other two kinds of accounts, you just pick who you want to work with, what you want to invest in. It's basically very, very open for you to have input on what happens there. But with your 401k, you're very limited to the company that your employer has chosen to work with for that. So what happens is your company decides they want to have a 401k. They find a financial institution like an investing brokerage or whoever to actually host that 401k for them. And then there's probably limitations on what you can invest in there. So your best bet is to talk to your HR person, investigate what you can invest in there, make sure that what you're picking doesn't have crazy exorbitant fees or goes against your overall investing philosophy. If you have one yet, I know this is kind of a beginner video, but with a little research, you can decide, do I want to be investing in bonds or not? Do I want to be investing in big companies or small companies? Like a lot of times the actual options you have through your 401k are far, far, far more limited than the things you can invest in something like a taxable brokerage or in something like an IRA. So kind of an unfortunate reality about a 401k, but when the benefits of it are so good to have the tax savings and to have the employer match, sometimes it's worth it to get pigeonholed. Personally, a 401k has been huge in my overall net worth growth over time. I've always taken advantage of a 401k because I've always had access to a 401k match, so that was worthwhile. And my wife has always taken advantage of her 401k. Her company's amazing too because they don't have a vesting schedule on that employer match where they contribute to the account for you. Everywhere I've worked has always had a vesting schedule, which means you have to wait between 1 and 6 years to actually get that match, to own the match. If you quit your job and left before then, you would be forfeiting some or all of that money. Where with my wife's company, there's no vesting period. So the day she contributes, They match it, boom, it's hers. If she quit the next day, she would take all that money with her. So if you're investigating this, I would also investigate your vesting schedule along with the investments that you can actually pick from. Make sure everything makes sense. Understand your employer match so you know how to maximize that. I would get the whole match. If I were you, I legally can't tell you how to invest, so this isn't investing advice, but if I had access to a 401k again, I would be getting the full match. In my experience, that typically means you're investing somewhere between 3% and 6% of your total paycheck. It'd be really cool if employers matched more than that, but I think that's pretty rare. But there's something critical that you need to know about 401ks, and that's how to not lose that money. Whenever you leave that job, if and when you leave that job and go work somewhere else, there are billions and billions of dollars of forgotten and abandoned 401k dollars that people have left behind that they don't realize is still theirs. So to understand how to not leave that money behind and to keep it and to take it with you to the next job or to the rest of your life, you got to watch this video next. Also, if you've been curious this whole time why I have these scabs on my forehead, I don't recommend swimming in your pool with your eyes closed, or else you might smash your head into the side of the pool, scrape your skin off. It's pretty nasty, but that's besides the point. Save your 401k money. Make sure you don't forget about it and abandon it, and watch this video next. Otherwise, a secret comment word just for fun for anybody who's made it to the end of the video is sunrise. I'm looking out the window and there's a beautiful sunrise this morning, so we'll say sunrise. Thank you for watching. Thank you for channel members for supporting me directly, for getting videos early, for getting behind the scenes videos and access to videos that no one else gets to see. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.